All right, Baby Yoda, which way is the way? Is it this way? This way? Which way are we going? Welcome back, everyone, to Mid-Level Media and my review and recap of the recent episode of The Mandalorian, Episode 1 of Season 2, titled Chapter 9, The Marshal. So, let's get into this episode, guys, and I kind of want to make these a little short, 6-7 minute, just my quick thoughts on it, because I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't feel like I talk about Star Wars enough on this channel, but just to let you guys know, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life, for 25 years. I love the original trilogy. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite film of all time. I've come around on the prequels in recent years. I don't think they're as bad as a lot of people make them out to be. And as far as the sequel trilogy, I really loved The Force Awakens when I first saw it. It's gone down in quality for me since. I love The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people don't, but I love the movie. And Rise of Skywalker is a steaming pile of horseshit, and I'm not a big fan of that one. Rogue One, Solo, they're okay Star Wars movies, but I was a huge fan of the first season of The Mandalorian. I thought it kind of brought Star Wars back to where it kind of needed to be at this point in time. It's kind of the cool thing to love The Mandalorian. Everybody does. I mean, it seems to be the one thing that's kind of uniting the Star Wars fandom. Everybody's divisive on the films. They love Last Jedi, hate Last Jedi, love Force Awakens, hate Force Awakens, love Rise of Skywalker, don't like Rise of Skywalker like me. But one thing that everybody seems to unite on is this show. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of get into it and break it down. As far as Season 1, I love Season 1. I thought it was fantastic. I've only seen it once, so I'm not going to be able to provide a lot of thoughtful analysis on like what happened in this first episode, how it carried over from last season, and all the little nuances and everything that happened in the first season, because I only saw it once and I didn't rewatch it again before starting this. But I just want to kind of give you my raw reaction on each episode, because I just got done watching the first episode of this season, and I thought it was a great opener. I thought it did a lot of really cool things. It established some new characters. It brought the Mandalorian back. There was some cool action set pieces. One thing that I'm really taken with this show is just, it doesn't feel cinematic, but it still feels very real and very grounded within this Star Wars universe. And that's what I love about it. You get to see the underbelly of this world like you've never seen it before. You got the Mandalorian walking in dark alleyways down the streets of a town. He's going into basically like a UFC fighting bar, watching the two, I don't know the species of aliens name, but they're the two aliens that were in the Rancor pit and Return of the Jedi. Two of those creatures are battling it out with axes, and it's just so cool. It's such a cool aesthetic to see, and you can tell that so much work was done in building these sets. And the costume design, the makeup effects, is just so much work is done, so much great work, and you can just tell it was done by people that love Star Wars, and that's what I like about it. It reminds me still of the first time I saw Force Awakens. A lot of work went into that as far as set building and effects and stuff like that, but there was more CGI and just more production value with that. And with this, you kind of feel the lack of production value, you feel the budget, but I don't think it really hurts anything as far as like show quality. But just want to get that out there. But I love the way it opened up. I loved how, you open with the shot of Baby Yoda. Of course, Baby Yoda's your moneymaker. That's what everybody comes to see the show for. And they open with a nice shot of Yoda, and they're just strolling down the street, and Yoda's just kind of peeking around. Just great puppet work there. Whoever came up with the idea of Baby Yoda and just how he was going to move around, and the fact that they weren't going to make him CGI, they were going to make him real, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then some stuff happens. They end up back on Tatooine, and then we get introduced to Timothy Oliphant's character, who is Cobb Vann. And he is the Marshal of Mos Plagos, which is a town in Tatooine that I have never heard of before. I don't know if it's been canon in books and stuff like that. But another thing I need to bring up, I am a huge Star Wars fan. As big of a Star Wars fan that I am, I have not seen the Clone Wars or Rebels, so I'm not like a big animation guy. I do want to dive into those at some point, and obviously they're all on Disney Plus. I have access to them. It's just a matter of getting time to do so. So I'm not like a big into those shows, so there could be a lot of stuff and references that I'm missing in this show. There could be things that you're like, but Ken, they brought this up on such and such episode of Rebels, episode of Clone Wars. I don't know anything about that, so I can only speak to what's going on in this show. But Cobb Vanth, who I believe is a character that's been established before, but played by Timothy Olyphant. I love Timothy Olyphant, one of the best just performers today. I loved him on that Santa Clarita Diet show on Netflix. I was disappointed that show got canceled. I've loved him on The Office. Of course, he was a big character in Justified. The first time I remember seeing Timothy Olyphant, of course, was in Scream 2. But anyway, yeah, I love Timothy Olyphant. He's fantastic in this role. Also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, great in that movie. He plays kind of a similar character to the one in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was getting those similar vibes, but he's just kind of like the rough and gruff, Marshal, the kind of like a cowboy type character in this world. So basically, he has what I would assume is Boba Fett's armor because they are back on Tatooine, and he got it from some Jawas. So where did he get them from the Jawas? We don't know. It's a mystery, but it's kind of revealed at the end of the episode. But they meet in the bar. They sit down. They talk a little bit. Mandalorian wants his armor back. Timothy Olyphant doesn't want to give it to him. So they talk for a little bit, and then we get some Tremor action. The Tremors invade the town on Tatooine. And I know it's not Tremors. It's what they're calling, I thought it might be a Sarlacc, but I'm like, if it's a Sarlacc, I've never seen a Sarlacc move like that before. But he calls it some kind of a dragon. So that invades the town. It eats one of the buffalo thing. And then basically Timothy Olyphant says, if you want your armor back, you got to help me take this thing out. They go, they scout it out, they get some groups together, they get some sand people together, they get the townspeople together, and they go out and they battle this thing. And it is an epic battle with this huge Tremor-like monster. I can only sandworm or whatever. It looks a lot like the sandworm from the Dune trailer that we just got. So really cool looking monster, really cool looking creature effects on that. I'm assuming that what it's spitting is like lethal acid. It doesn't show them melting away or disintegrating or anything like that, but you kind of get that idea because immediately after it squirts the acid out, they all start falling to the ground. The monster falls on them. But yeah, I really like this entire sequence. My favorite sequence is just the visual of Timothy Olyphant, Cobb Vanth, and the Mandalorian putting their armor on and just shooting into the air, flying into the air. I love that. It was one of my favorite sequences in Attack of the Clones when Jango Fett flew into the air. So it's always awesome getting to see them fly in that Mandalorian armor. But then you got Mando kind of pulling a Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He gets ate by the worm, and then he spits himself out because he does some electricity stuff, and then he blows the thing up because he had an entire like buffalo full of dynamite that went into the belly of the beast and blew it in half. And then you see some sand people mining all the meat out of it, trying to get some stuff to cook up later that night. And it's just a really effective scene and sequence. I really enjoyed it. And then at the end, guys, right at the end of the episode, we get the tease that Boba Fett is likely back in this universe, unless it's a clone, but it's the same actor that played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. Tamira Morrison, I believe is his name. So the exact same actor that played Jango Fett, so you can only assume that his son, we never got to see what Boba Fett looked like under the mask in Return of the Jedi, but you can only assume that is the exact same character that they brought back for this episode. So he's kind of looking off as the Mando's riding off into the sunset. And yeah, I think if I'm going to give my predictions and my thoughts, I think that's probably Boba Fett, and they're going to explain how he got out of the worm, possibly in the next episode or maybe later on down the line. One thing about this episode that I think is important to note is that it doesn't really continue a lot of the overarching plot. We don't see Giancarlo Esposito's character from the end of the first season. I know there was that awesome image of him coming out, cutting his way out of the ship with that lightsaber type thing, that saber sword that he had. We don't get any of him in this episode. It doesn't really continue the story from that, but what it does is it establishes some new characters, it establishes some new plot threads, some new stories, and kind of continues the trend of this show of just having these kind of standalone quest stories. You know, this was very much a quest episode. He met a character, the character gave him an objective, and he met that objective and then ended the episode, and they kind of set something up for the next. So a very kind of standard episode, but a good episode to start the season with. I'm definitely interested and intrigued, and definitely this episode even is just continuing to prove that Star Wars is probably at this point in time just better suited for TV, just better suited for this long narrative storytelling. And I believe that The Mandalorian is probably the best Star Wars piece of entertainment that we've gotten since the original. Just so far from what I've seen, they haven't really had a big misstep yet. But that does it for my review, guys. As for a score, I give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I think it was a solid, very solid opener to this season. I'm definitely looking forward to catching more of these episodes. But what did you think of the first episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and like this video. Subscribe to my channel if this is the first time that you are discovering me on Mid-Level Media. I would definitely appreciate that. But I'm Ken, guys, and I'll catch you next time.